Branch Wars is the 6th episode of the 4th season of The Office. This is directed by Joss Whedon, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. It's a pretty good episode. I wasn't expecting the return of Karen. I didn't look ahead, so I just assumed Karen would not be in it again, so that was quite interesting. In general, it's maybe not one of my favourites, but I certainly don't mind the episode. It starts off with Karen on the phone, and we very quickly find out who she'd been calling because we're then in Michael's office. He has a dummy that looks like himself, and it's wired up to make it look like he's snoring at his desk. And then Stanley comes in and tells him he's had an offer from Dunder Mifflin Utica, and he's going to take it because it's for more money. And Michael's not very happy about this, and that's the main narrative. We do have a bit of a subplot involving the Finer Things Club, which is a club set up by Pam, Oscar, and Toby, and they meet to talk about the finer things, books and art, and they get dressed up, and they eat fine food, well, food that's in keeping with whatever they're discussing. And I thought that was lovely. I really enjoyed that as a concept, and we'll come back to that every now and then. Michael threatens Karen and tells her that if you're going to take Stanley, I'm going to take one of your people. And he can't believe all of these people are leaving the Scranton branch, and he turns around and he sees Toby with a bow tie on, and he's carrying this stack of cups, and he just says, "That's why people are leaving." I'll be honest, that would keep me staying. I love it. And Michael, Dwight and Jim are apparently going on a sales call, but they've tricked Jim. They're actually going to Utica. And it took me a second to realise why Jim really doesn't want to go there. And of course, it's because of Karen. And Jim is about to make a phone call, and Michael throws Jim's phone out of the car window. They stop and retrieve it, and Jim is about to phone a taxi to pick him up from wherever they are. And Michael tells him, "You're going to miss the best prank ever." And Jim cannot resist finding out what this prank is. And the next thing we know, Jim is wearing a warehouse costume and a mustache, and he's involved in the prank. And they're all in the car heading to Utica, and Dwight's peeing in a bottle in the back, which was a very peculiar moment, but quite funny. And meanwhile, Andy is trying to join the Finer Things Club. He's not welcome. We're then at Utica, and it is so awkward and really quite intense because we see Karen. Jim is in the car wearing this uniform, and we see Karen, and Jim ducks down. And it is kind of a jump scare moment when Karen just appears at the car window. Genuinely terrifying, but very well done and incredibly awkward. And she asks Jim what he's doing here, and he doesn't answer. He says hello, and she asks him again, and it's very clear that she's not interested in small talk. She thinks this is very strange. She wants to know what on earth he is doing here and what is going on. And I absolutely don't blame her. And we have a really awkward conversation between Jim and Karen's clearly irritated. And I don't really blame her. I think maybe she's being a little bit colder than I expected, but at the same time, I don't completely blame her. This is a very bizarre situation. She clearly doesn't want to see Jim. Jim is being very awkward, and the whole thing is just really, really bizarre, but it works well. And Michael, defeated, goes back to Scranton, and he tells Stanley, "Fine, you can leave." And Stanley wants to stay. And I'm wondering, I never really fully got this from Stanley because Stanley doesn't necessarily show his emotions that readily, but I'm wondering if he's feeling appreciated because Michael was willing to go to such ridiculous lengths to get him to stay, or at least to get revenge for Karen taking him. And I thought that was, in a way, in a strange way, in a Michael Scott way, it was kind of sweet. Not the best idea, but quite sweet. And we end the episode with Pam cheering Jim up from his awkward encounter by giving him a plate of finger sandwiches and inviting him to join the Finer Things Club. It was quite delightful, and they're eating jacket potatoes out of tinfoil, and yeah, the costumes are great as well. So quite a fun episode, quite awkward as well, and definitely not too bad. It's not my favourite, but nevertheless, I'd say that Branch Wars is still a good episode of The Office, and ultimately one that I definitely enjoyed.